The beat was flawless, until Michael's eyes locked on a flash of movement near the front row. The rhythm section kept rolling, lights pulsing blue and amber, but something down there wasn't right. A few fans were pushing toward the barricade, faces tense, a ripple forming in the mass of bodies. He didn't miss details like that, not ever. The camera crane swept past, catching his silhouette in profile as he turned slightly, microphone lowered. To the audience it looked like choreography, maybe part of the act, but the band saw the small tilt of his head, the subtle hand that meant wait. Only the drummer noticed first. He eased off the hi-hat, uncertain. No one knew what that signal meant yet. From the wings, the stage manager's voice crackled through the intercom. "Minor issue front pit, security's on it." The kind of tone that tried to sound calm, but carried strain underneath. But Michael had already seen more than that. He saw the way one man's arms jerked, how the people beside him recoiled. The lights made it hard to tell whether it was panic, a fight, or someone collapsing. He took 2 steps back from the edge of the stage, listening through the reverb of the crowd. The sound wasn't cheering anymore. It was uneven, sharp, confused. And then, for just 1 second, a woman's voice cut through everything. "Stop, somebody sets down." The next beat never came. Michael raised his gloved hand, fingers open, steady, and the entire band froze mid-note. The lights, the dancers, even the playback engineer hesitated. That hand had stopped stadiums before, but this time it wasn't a planned cue. No one breathed for a full 3 seconds. Then came the rehook moment, the first wave of curiosity spreading across 50,000 faces. But here's the part you can't miss. While most of the crowd thought it was part of the show, one camera operator zoomed in on the front barrier and saw the truth. 2 fans were arguing, pushing, but someone between them had fallen. Security rushed forward. Too fast, too rough. Michael saw it from 20 feet away. He spoke into the mic, not singing now, just calm, even. "Hold the lights. Easy." His tone cut through the confusion, like a clean line of command. The spotlight swung toward the pit, and that was when the audience finally saw what he'd seen. For a moment, the image froze. A pocket of chaos inside a sea of silence. He motioned to the side stage again, quieter this time, and the tech crew understood, dropped the music feed, cut the effects, bring house lights to half. The shift felt almost supernatural in its stillness, though everything about it was human discipline. From the control tower, the production director Sepsa's voice came in through the in-ear monitor. "Michael, keep it rolling. With Sept, clear it." Then Sept stopped the show. He didn't respond. Because he'd heard this before, years ago. Another show, another manager, insisting the show must go on. That night, someone got hurt. He'd promised himself it would never happen again. That was the first loop opening. A memory nested beneath the now. Back in the present, the crowd was murmuring, half in confusion, half in concern. Cameras panned randomly, unsure where to look. The arena's giant screens cut to black to avoid broadcasting the scuffle. Michael stayed perfectly still, one hand on the mic stand, eyes focused on the barricade. Wait, this is where the real decision started forming. The man in the pit was now being lifted, but one guard shoved too hard, and nearby fans booed. Michael took a single step forward and pointed, not angrily, but with unmistakable authority, toward the guards. He didn't need to shout. The message was clear: slow down. And they did. A minute passed. You could hear the faint hum of the amplifiers, the crowd breathing, the air conditioning ducts. Then the arena lights brightened further, and everyone could finally see the situation resolving. The man was conscious, the tension easing. Michael lowered his arm. He looked over his shoulder to the band, and gave a small nod. But no music started yet. Because here's the thing nobody expected. He walked to the edge of the stage, crouched slightly, and signaled for the nearest usher to come closer. He wanted to speak directly to the people involved, make sure no one was hurt. One camera captured that moment from the far left, the king of pop, in full costume, surrounded by silence, leaning down to check on ordinary fans. Every performer's nightmare, every leader's test. What do you do when safety and show collide? The crowd, sensing something rare, began to clap, not the rhythmic cheer of excitement, but slow, respectful applause. It built softly, echoing through the rafters. Then, after the tension eased, Michael stood upright again. He took a slow breath, eyes still scanning the section that had erupted minutes earlier. The band was waiting, unsure. He turned slightly toward them and said through the mic, just audible enough, "We go when everyone sits ready, not before." That line wasn't rehearsed, but it would become the quote people remembered most from that night. Still, the pressure backstage was growing. The production director again. "Michael, please, we set her live to feed, restart now." Another voice added, "Sponsors are watching." He ignored both. Instead, he signaled the lighting tech to dim everything except a single white beam over the crowd section that had calmed. He wanted people to notice that it wasn't about spectacle, it was about attention. Rehook #2 triggered around now. Because 1 second later, something unexpected happened again. Another group of fans started waving toward the stage, pointing farther back. Michael shielded his eyes, trying to see a second disturbance, this time several rows deep. Wait, don't skip this. This is where the story widened. Where security began to move again. Radios crackling. From where he stood, he could tell they were responding with too much force, and behind him, the tour manager was gesturing wildly. "Keep going. Keep singing." He didn't stet. He whispered into the mic instead. Low but firm. House lights full. For the first time in that entire tour, the stadium lights went fully on mid-performance. Bright, flat, raw. No color gels, no smoke, no magic. Just truth. Thousands of faces blinking, suddenly aware of each other. It was the kind of silence you could feel in your chest. He walked back toward center stage, microphone lowered again, as crew members hurried along the wings. Unsure what to do. The crowd wasn't angry. They were waiting, respectful, curious. At that moment, the venue's safety officer, a fictional man named Darren Lee, rushed on stage from the left wing, headset askew, clipboard in hand. His face said it all. Corporate panic. "Michael," he hissed half into the mic feed. "You can just kill the lights like that. We have a running schedule, broadcast timers." Michael turned his head slowly. Calm. "There's a man down there," he said, tone soft but immovable. "Timers can wait." Every sound guy in the pit froze. Nobody dared interrupt again. That was Loop 2 opening. The backstage pressure, the authority clash. Meanwhile, in the audience, medics were now visible, tending to the fainted fan. The situation was stabilizing. But Michael didn't move to resume. He was waiting for a clear signal from the paramedics themselves. He'd learned over decades that applause could cover cries for help if you weren't listening. And that steps when the countdown began. 20 seconds, until he had to decide whether to continue the show or call a full stop. 20 seconds that would define how people remembered this night. 20 seconds, Darren muttered behind him, still counting his own version of control. Michael wasn't counting time. He was counting breaths. One look, one breath, one decision. At 15 seconds, the medics raised a hand. Thumbs up. The fan was okay. The crowd cheered, relieved, emotional. But Michael didn't immediately smile. He was still measuring the room, watching how quickly relief could turn to chaos again. 10 seconds, said Darren, though now it sounded meaningless. Michael lifted the mic again, took one step toward the front, and said quietly, "Let's make sure everyone's safe. That's all that matters." The crowd erupted, not in excitement, but gratitude. People clapped, Some shouted thank you. Rehook #3 emerged right here, because as the applause swelled, another, smaller tension began backstage. A heated argument between two staff members, caught on camera, but muted to the public. They were debating whether this delay would cost them penalties. Michael noticed. He turned slightly, saw their gestures, and gave a half smile, not approval, not dismissal, just quiet authority. The kind that said, "You'll remember why we're here." That's when the lights began to dim again, slowly, one section at a time. The music cue hadn't started yet, but the air was changing, calm returning. He nodded once more to the drummer. The hi-hat ticked softly, then stopped again. Because from the far right section someone shouted, "Thank you, Michael." The entire arena repeated it back like a wave. "Thank you, Michael." He closed his eyes for a second, just a breath, and let the sound wash over him. "You make the show. I just keep it safe." The lights faded back into color as the next track loaded, but not before one last sensory beat. The faint smell of overheated cables, the static in the mic, the weight of that pause hanging over 50,000 hearts. That's where part 1 ends, with the show ready to resume, but the real conflict only beginning behind the curtain. Because backstage, not everyone agreed with what he Sepp just done. The arena was quiet now, but Michael's eyes scanned every inch of the front row. The young fan had been guided to safety, but the ripple of tension hadn't fully faded. Somewhere between the barricade and the first few rows, murmurs rose, a few people gesturing in confusion, others wide-eyed in relief. He could see the subtle tremor in the hands of the security team. Panic still lingered in some corners, hesitation in others. From the wings, the production manager barked over the intercom. "Michael, the feed is live, start the track." His voice carried urgency, irritation, and fear all at once. Michael didn't answer. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, signaling for the house lights to remain up. The arena glowed in full, stark white illumination, revealing every anxious face, every tense muscle, every moment of human hesitation. It was a visual reset, a pause not just for safety, but for attention. One guard moved too quickly toward a group of fans, still leaning near the barricade. Michael raised his hand, slow and deliberate. The motion was clear. Stop, wait, breathe. A subtle command, but everyone knew it carried authority. The guard froze, caught between instinct and instruction. Michael's eyes, calm but unwavering, swept over the crowd again. He could see the fear, the relief, the residual adrenaline. Each reaction was a note in an invisible symphony he alone conducted. The medics gave a thumbs-up signal from the pit. The fan was okay, but Michael stayed rooted, watching for secondary issues. From far left, he noticed a young boy trying to reach the stage, overexcited, unaware of the hazard. Michael raised his other hand, motioning for a nearby usher to intervene gently. No chaos, no shouting, just controlled, intentional human guidance. Meanwhile, backstage, voices were rising. "We've lost time, Michael," one manager said, exasperated. "Sponsors are watching. You can't just stop the music mid-set," another added. "This could cost the tour thousands." Michael's jaw tightened slightly. He had heard it all before. Years of touring, decades of live shows, the mantra "the show must go on" had almost cost someone dearly once. Not again. He exhaled slowly, then spoke softly into the mic, not singing, not addressing the audience directly, just a measured, authoritative tone. "Let's make sure everyone is safe first, then we continue." It was enough. Silence fell. The arena seemed to hold its breath. The staff froze. Even the lighting technicians paused mid-dimmer adjustment. Another ripple in the crowd caught his attention. A small scuffle, further back this time. Michael's head tilted. He motioned subtly toward the security team, guiding them like a conductor directing an orchestra. "Observe. Do not rush. Human first," he seemed to say without words. Time stretched. Every second was amplified, the kind of pressure only live performance could create. One wrong move and panic could spread. One careless shout and the fragile calm could shatter. Michael stood alone on stage in that moment, the weight of thousands of eyes, millions of expectations, and human fragility pressing on him. Then came a micro-twist. A young man slipped near the barricade, almost falling. Instantly, 2 security guards reached for him. But Michael lifted a single finger. Not yet. He signaled calmly for the medics to approach carefully. The crowd noticed the pause, the weight of the decision. Whispers spread. He's stopping for safety. Wow. A soft re-hook emerged here. The audience, accustomed to spectacle, was now witnessing something deeper. Leadership under pressure. Not choreography. Not performance, but human care. Michael's gloved hand. The subtle nod. The controlled exhale. All cues for the trained staff. All lessons for the fans watching from afar. The drummer, waiting, caught Michael's glance. A half-smile passed between them. It was a signal to resume, but only once the arena was genuinely safe. The hi-hat tapped softly, tentative, measured. Then the rest of the rhythm section joined, layering cautiously, waiting for Michael's next cue. Another sensory disruption followed. The sound engineer noted a faint hum in one of the monitors. Michael paused, listened. Not enough to stop, but enough to acknowledge. The arena felt alive with tension again, not from danger, but from awareness. Every person, performer and fan alike, was conscious of the fragility of the moment. Nested loops started closing. Loop 3, Backstage Authority Challenge. Michael had established control. Every subtle hand gesture had recalibrated the team. Loop 2, The immediate threat in the pit, mitigated. Loop 1, The internal memory of past mistakes, honored. Michael finally took a deep breath, center stage, and raised the mic. The spotlight softened, colored gels returning, smoke machine slowly re-engaging. He spoke, calm and clear. The music continues. Together, safely. The band followed instantly. One look, one breath, one decision. Music filled the arena again. Not rushed, not chaotic, but deliberate. Fans clapped, a mixture of relief and admiration. Cameras captured his quiet composure. The subtle nod, the reminder that the stage was secondary to humanity. Applause swelled. Some fans cried softly. Some cheered quietly, all understanding the weight of what they had just witnessed. Michael's gaze swept the arena one last time, lingering on the previously tense front row. Everything was restored, yet the memory of the pause of care over spectacle remained indelible. As the track reached its first chorus, the tour manager finally exhaled. "Well done," he muttered to the assistant. Barely audible. Michael didn't respond. He was already scanning the next section, ready for the next potential hazard. Leadership, empathy, vigilance. That was the show tonight. Not the lights, not the choreography, but the human connection that made everything else possible. The camera pulled back, capturing the vast arena. A single white spotlight lingered briefly over the cleared front row, symbolic of the pause, the care, the quiet authority that had defined the night. Michael raised his hand once more, a subtle acknowledgement to the fans, the crew, the medics, and then, seamlessly, the concert roared back to life, spectacular, yet grounded in something far more profound than performance alone. One look, one breath, one decision. That night, Michael Jackson didn't just stop the music. He reminded everyone what it meant to lead, to protect, and to care in a world of flashing lights and roaring crowds.